Welcome to Thursday Night Knives. Coming up, we're going to have special guest Chaz Fisher from Fisher Blade Company. He'll be here. We'll be talking about the new Beckwith Covert, and he'll be giving one away here tonight. Very excited about that. We have a couple of new Gentleman Junkies we'll be welcoming, and a box of goodies from Dave of OG Blades. OG Blades, you know who OG Blades is. Formerly This Old Sword Blade Reviews. This Old Sword Blade Reviews is a thing of the past. Keep your stickers. They will be worth something. But Dave has changed his name to OG Blades, and he's also sent me 6 really cool knives I'm going to show off, and they will end up going into giveaways coming up here. Fernando Salome, good to have you here, sir. Hello, Knife Junkies. Bob, Jim, lots of love to all. Lots of love to you, Fernando. Good to have you here. Speak of the devil, OG Blades. Dave, good to have you here. Thursday Night Knives. Missed you, Robert. Yeah. Last week, I didn't even put up a we're not doing a show. And well, that was my bad. Sorry about that. Blame Dexter. Good to have you here, sir. I haven't been able to catch a stream in months. That's right, Blame Dexter. That's true. So long that you've made your avatar super creepy, that grinning ghoul. But it's good to have you here, Blame Dexter, always. Blade Ogre says, hello, all. Well, hello to you, Blade Ogre. Like all the Bowies and clasp blade shapes the best. Both are versions of the clip, and the clip point is the best for me because I can slice and poke better than other blade shapes. Well, he's actually talking about our topic here, which I didn't even mention up front. Best all-around blade shapes and why. And I decided we could talk about that because the Beckwith Covert has a very strong blade shape, and I think it's great, and I think it works for a lot of things. And well, we find that with a lot of different blade shapes, so it's something I want to get people's take on. Robert Douglas, always a pleasure. How you doing, sir? Evening, Bob. If I had to pick, drop point, but usually carry a sheep's foot. Just depends on what I anticipate for the day's chores. I hear you on the drop point. Actually, funny enough, I've been carrying. It's not that funny at all. I've been carrying my my bug out a lot recently. Just popping it in the back left pocket next to my bandana. I got the little snaggletooth MF there, so I can draw it and have it open if I need to get tactical. Just a fun knife and a great, super useful knife, and probably one of my favorite drop points out there with that nice swedge. Over under pull. Good to have you here, sir. Hello. Truly enjoying your content. Thank you. Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate the kind words. Puts a wind in my sail. Doug Bowl. We were just talking about new Gentleman Junkies. Doug Bowl is a new Gentleman Junkie, sir. It's a pleasure to have you here. Blessings, Bob, and all the guys and gals. I'll mention the others too. Well, thank you, Doug. We also have Craig Vincent. He's a brand new Gentleman Junkie. PJ DOEF. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. PJDOEF, and Mark Salva, and then just moments ago, Jeff Wright. Is it Jeff Wright? Yes, Jeff Wright. All new Gentleman Junkies. I presume that you were motivated greatly by the prospect of winning a Beckwith Covert. So best of luck to all of you and to all of the Gentleman Junkies. Jay Demeter, good to have you here, sir. Good evening, he says. Well, good evening to you. Have a nice day. I was wearing your shirt earlier. I wore it to the girls. The adults played the girls in volleyball at their season end party, and that was my shirt. Have a nice day. Says, good evening from Missoula, Mount Junkalos, Missoula, Montana. I don't know if I've been to Missoula, but I was in Montana when I was about 10, and it left such an impression. What a beautiful place. Sword XXXY, good to have you here, Sword. Good day, Bob, Jim, and Junkies. Well, good day to you down there on the other side of the planet. Steve the Ripper, hell yeah, I bought a spectral carbon fiber Williams blade Zukuri. Osoraku Zukuri because of OG blades. Oh, yeah. Oh, Dave has the superlative collection. It's basically this blade right here, isn't it? Trailing point. It's on here somewhere. Yeah, but those Williams blades, whether it's James Williams or his son, they're so nice. And that old school Tanto or whatever that shape is, Ozukuri shape. This adder bites. Good to have you here. This adder in single blade shape. So that's kind of a center point sheep's foot. Wouldn't you call it something like that? Craig Vincent. Well, welcome, Craig Vincent, a new Gentleman Junkie and an old time viewer. Good to have you here, sir. Happy Thursday, he says. Well, happy Thursday to you. 5-door also stands to win the Fisher Beckwith Covert. Good to have you here, sir. Greetings, Bob, Jim, and Junkies. Well, greetings to you. Will B says, hey, Bob. Well, Will B, good to have you here. Hey, Bob, Jim, and Junkies. I think the best all-around shapes are recurved Tantos of the Recon Tanto of my Norseman. Also, the Sachs Warncliffe blade shape. Yes, I love the Sachs Warncliffe blade shape, and especially if there's just a little bit of belly. But you mentioned a recurve Tanto, and earlier I mentioned that Dave of OG Blades sent me some knives to give away, and this is one of them. Talk about a recurve Tanto. Manaja. This thing is the mini Paragon, and it's pretty darn big. The mini Paragon. This is about a 2.25 inch broad blade with a super high height, thin recurve grind, and that front angle there, or that front tip there. This is one hell of a Tanto, and interesting knife. I'm sure a lot of people are gonna want to get this one when I'm giving it away. Joseph S, good to have you here, Joseph S. Bob, Jim, and Junkies, and well, it's good to have you here. It looks like your avatar is now in black and white, but the same picture. Jeff W, a pleasure. The giveaway is just a bonus. Thank you. You must be Jeff Wright. Thank you, man. Best all-around blade shape, says Dave, for me would be a long clip point. Think Bowie clip, but straight. My vote goes to TKL Knives FMF. Kudos always to Tim. And that was designed, that's Frogman Tactical, right? Is that the FM part? That is a looker of a knife. Hats off to Tim, no doubt. There are so many TKLs I want. Chief among them, the Sapper. Well, I guess chief among them, the Agent 001, but I'll be having that soon enough. But the Sapper, I would love to have the Sapper. I know Dave's a proud owner of it, as is Will be. You have a Sapper, right? 5-door says, best overall blade shape. This is for you, Bob. Reverse Tanto. I'll always go boring old drop point. Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate your twisting the blade, if you will. Sometimes I have to admit, reverse Tanto is a good description of a blade shape. If it's not quite a Warncliffe, not quite a sheep's foot, but I really think we should get out of the habit, even though it's a good description, because I think it's kind of a lazy description, because it's not really a reverse Tanto. It's not. It's just not. But also the term is just gross. So stop using it. Will B says the recurve Tanto of the Norseman can be used in so many ways and cut so well. I've used mine as a scrapper on occasion. The Warncliffe is great for utility and self-defense. Agreed about the self-defense aspect. I do like the Warncliffe for that, though I've never used it for actual self-defense. Those kind of cuts, comma cuts or C cuts, those kind of scooping, gouging cuts that you do are great with a Warncliffe that you do just into someone's thigh when they're hassling you. No, but if you can train that in cardboard boxes or in other targets, and it's fun, especially in cardboard, because you can see your cut and it looks like a C, or it looks like a base clef, basically. But Warncliffes are great for that, but so are Tantos. And even like I'm looking right in front of me, this is great for that kind of a cut, even though it's a drop point. Donald Fry, good to have you here, Donald. Good evening, Bob, Jim, and fellow junkies. Greetings from Georgia. I'm going to be down there in a couple of weeks, as are a lot of people watching. Counting the days till Blade Show. Me too. Someone, let's see, who was it? I'll remember in a minute, but someone a couple of years ago said during one of the live feeds that Atlanta is the largest city surrounded by a forest or something like that. I guess there's a giant state forest that goes around Atlanta. Is that true? I never bothered to actually look after that person whose name is on the tip of my tongue said that. Uh, but I'll have to. Jesse, evening to you, sir. Evening all, he says. I love the crow poking the eyes out of the skull. Robert Von Darth, nice to have you with us, sir. Best all around, I vote Wharncliffe. It maximizes the available blade edge availability for defense cutting. Yep. It keeps the tip alignment with the forward force, also functional for fine utility. I agree on all fronts. I'm a total convert to the Wharncliffe for self-defense. It's obviously a great utility shape, but the great and powerful Michael Janich really drove the point home about self-defense. Steve the Ripper says probably the most intimidating 3.5-inch blade and weighs only around 2 ounces. And Steve, oh, you were yes. What were you talking about, Steve? You were talking about the oh damn, tip of my tongue. What was it, Jim? Help me, man. It'll come to me in a second. Oh yeah, the Williams knife. Sorry, I know you're all yelling at your screens if you're paying attention, which I know you are. Will B says I have a mini Paragon, still wishing they made a full size What? How do you have a mini Paragon without a full size Paragon? That's terrible. That's like naming it Star Wars 1 and then not coming out with a sequel, which would have been fine by me. Eugene Krabs says, hey, had the hollow grind TRM Neutron on me. Hollow ground Neutron. Hard to argue with a good drop point for all around use. Eugene. I didn't know that they hollow ground anything. I must amend my Star Wars statement. I would go through. I say everything could stop after Return of the Jedi. Totally. I mean, the first 3 movies were awesome. Hoth and the speeders and all that, awesome. And the with the tauntaun, all of that, very cool. But when they started retreading and then they started having congressional hearings in Star Wars, oh my God. Talking about shipping routes and all this, you lost me there. Frankie Frank says, well, hello to Frankie Frank and that beautiful vista right next to his name. Greetings, Bob, gentlemen, and fellow knife junkies. Finally got hands on the 1917 Cold Steel. Awesome. I almost had that on the table tonight. Such a sweet piece. Been carrying it around in the kitchen. Awesome. Hey, I have a question for you, Frankie. Do you find that the handle feels tacky? Like undried paint. I have found that a couple of the knives that come from the Windlass Knife Factory in India, that's one of them, and so is the Wild West Bowie. Both great knives that I love a lot. But both of those knives, I took a cloth with just 90% isopropyl rubbing alcohol and they just like slathered it with so much of whatever lacquer or whatever crap they put on the handle that it never felt like it dried. Like maybe it dried on the surface, but not underneath or something. So I basically rubbed it with alcohol until I got just a beautiful stained wood instead of wood with just like a heavy, dense covering of something that didn't feel quite dry. I'm curious if you had that experience with your 1917. In any case, they both clean up beautifully. Benedict Odie, good to have you here, Benedict. Howdy, junkies. I finally made it again. Excellent. Finally made it again. I like that. Well, good. You're always welcome. And let's see. Kane A is here. Evening, Bob, Jim, and fellow junkies. Evening, Kane A. Been a minute since I caught a live TNK. Well, he's cheersing with beers, and I'll cheers you with some coffee. Which I'm almost at the bottom of, sadly. Will be. Yes, I love my Sapper. What a cool knife. I kept picking that up at his table last year at Blade. Blame Dexter says, I'm a Wharncliffe sheep's foot kind of guy. Okay, Blame Dexter. In my mind, a Wharncliffe and a sheep's foot, though they have the straight blade or the straight edge and the low clip, they're very different blades because I feel like a Wharncliffe, you can slip into anything, through the front. You can puncture with that, whereas a sheep's foot kind of goes out of its way to be not that kind of a blade. So which one, if you had to pick from one of those two kind of same but very, very different blades, which would be your preference? Steve the Ripper says, best blade shape for me is a trailing point. I find myself gravitating towards Persian shapes. Steve, I just pulled this out. I love the Talwar. This is about as trailing as I can go. I've had some other, I actually have the Spyderco Persian designed by Ed Schemp, and my brother got that for me. I will never get rid of it. It feels great in hand. It's a great cutter. It is a dog. That's what I find about Ed Schemp's designs, though he's an amazing designer and deserves all the accolades he gets. I think his knives are generally almost all pretty ugly, but they feel great in hand and they work great. And that one has a super upswept blade. So if you like the upsweeps, actually they don't make that anymore. But you could still find it. My brother did. He's knife junkie adjacent, I'd say. He's a junkie about other things. But what do you think of the Talwar? They also make a 4-inch version of this and also unserrated. Yeah, for someone who's a Persian-y guy, let me know. Craig Vincent says, Bob, I'm just a blade gigolo. And everywhere I go, you love them all equally. Well, I like that. That's a warm fuzzy. Adrian Fighter 35, good to have you here, sir. Good evening from San Antonio, fellow knife junkies. Well, good evening. San Antonio is I know it to be a beautiful city. But that's because that's from the 70s and 80s when my dad used to go down there. He loved it. He'd go down there for business. I never went myself, but I do love Texas. So, well, anyway, greetings to you, sir. User 579. Good to have you here, user. Pikal versus punch knife for appendix carry. I'm going to say Pikal because easier, okay, if you're going to go punch dagger or if you're going to go, push dagger, I would go, this is what I've learned from EDCing one occasionally, the Stroop one. Asymmetrical handle is pretty necessary because, or at least the way I'm carrying it, which is appendix in the waistband, at a 45-degree angle, kind of like if I had super abs, it would be in that space where your leg or your, I don't know, thigh meets your abs and your, as Joe Rogan calls it, dick root part right there. Anyway, there's a natural fold there. You feel it when you sit down or when you do like a kettlebell swing or something like that. And that's where I put my sheath, right in that slot or that area. With a push dagger, if you have a handle that is symmetrical, a perfect T, you're going to have too much of that top T poking into your gut. Even if you're super fit and you don't have a gut, it's still going to be poking in that direction. So I would say if you're going to wear it, appendix in the waistband, make sure it's an asymmetrical handle with the blade protruding between the forefinger and the middle finger so that the handle is longer on the bottom and then it can come down over your belt and it doesn't get in the way. That said, I prefer a Pikal, but punch daggers are so cool, and if you can integrate it into your EDC and have it be a regular thing, I'm sorry, I think that's a super flex. Like, oh yeah, I carry a push dagger every day because I'm that guy, I like it. But all that said, I carry Pikals way more often. Jeremy S., good to have you here, Jeremy. I thought Washington State would have a larger city with a forest around it. Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I was just taking someone's word for it. Who was that? Well, I'll remember at some point. Lady Picture Show 72. Welcome. Good to have you here. Oh, absolutely love my Greg Moffat double-edged slim. I love his knives and I love his logo. It's like an elephant. I've been following him for a long time and just like flirting with buying a knife from him, and I never have, but he's got that he's got a double-edged Pikal style. It doesn't have to be, but a double-edged curved knife that I really like. And I like a lot of his stuff. I think the one that you're talking about is a dagger, right? But Jeff Moffat, very cool. And that's kind of a deep cut. I'm impressed. Blame Dexter says, disrespecting the prequel trilogy is fighting words, Bob. Best be careful. Really? Oh my God. All right. Well, when, what was it? Whatever episode 1 was, the 4th one to ever come out. I think it came out in the late 90s. And I was playing hooky from work because I worked right across the street from the Ziegfeld Theater, and I was working for Warner Brothers. And I was like, hey, man, I work for a movie company. I should be able to do this at lunch. I was just a little punk. But I took a long lunch and went to the Ziegfeld Theater, and I was so excited. I was like, this is exciting. Like the first time I saw Star Wars, I was all giddy. And man, I fell asleep, or probably, I don't know, came close, went into that twilight state. So I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. I'm sorry if I insulted a beloved piece of cultural pap to you, but and just yeah, it just kind of gets worse. Though some of the violence gets better and some of the fighting gets better, but the one-off where they're figuring out the codes to destroy the Death Star, that was a cool one. That was dark. It was a little different. Sorry. James Moore, good to have you here, James. Who needs the NBA playoffs when we got Thursday Night Knives? Exactly. I don't even know what is that? National bitch ass? No, I'm just kidding. I'm just joking, people. Doug Bowles says, Bob, how does the tip of the Wharncliffe knife hold up compared to other blades? It depends on how much you drop it, because I've dropped mine. Like I'm thinking, for instance, my 20 CV Spyderco Yojimbo I dropped in the sink and just knocked the tip off like that. Okay, now I want that tall wire, says Robert Von Darth. So I got to say, Wharncliffe tips at the end of a hollow grind like this. Well, this is a pretty damn stout knife, but the ones Wharncliffe tips at the end of a really fine hollow ground knife, that's dangerous, but be careful with what you use it for. Speaking of blade shape, says OG Blades, I'm conflicted between the Agent 001 and the Nova 2. Help. Well, I would say you got to get a Nova 2 because you already have a Nova 1. But they're they're both awesome. That Agent 001, I'm very excited for. You know what I would say? If this is actually a serious question, probably Nova 2, because I think the Agent is something that will, that's the Nova 2 is all handmade, and it's going to be a different, slower sort of project. Not slower, a more limited project. I think the Agent 001 will be made, at least more than one batch of that will be made. I'm pretty sure. So there you go. Hope that helps. I say both. Ancient alien theorists say both. Frankie Frank says, hey, Bob. Yes, agreed. The handle is sticky as heck, which is why I have it in the kitchen. A lot of hand washing in there. Okay. I don't want to use alcohol wipes since I might mess it up. Well, okay. But I'm telling you, that's what I did twice. Let's see. Do I have either one? No, I don't have either one up here on the table. But it totally. So I just regular rubbing alcohol, like you might have in your medicine cabinet, and just wiped it down until it came back clean, basically. And though the color is not as dark naturally, it doesn't have that feeling. So if that feeling starts getting to you, you might check that out. Jeff W. says, Hawkbill, my first real knife was the Spyderco Harpy. That's a nice knife, man. That is a nice knife. All right. Well, let's see. Not legal in California says, I realized I was under my other profile, so I switched to my old profile on YouTube. All right. Well, I'm glad you did. Before we get to Chaz Fisher, who is now waiting in the green room, waiting just to give one of you lucky gentleman junkies an awesome knife. Pocket carry fixed blade for self-defense. First, I think it's time, before we do that we got to do a pocket check. We'll find out what Chaz was carrying in a minute in his pockets. I think I know what it might be. But today I had in my front right pocket the Emerson CQC 13. This one with the Vantage Point Bladeworks handles. Tom Engelson made these. I would say in the earlier blush of his career, and these handles are awesome with the checkering and everything, and that natural micarta really takes this 13 just to a great place. This was made in 2013. So yeah, serendipity, man. But he's doing some incredible stuff now with lots of different materials, especially on Emerson's, but he does other knives as well. Tom Engelson, Vantage Point Bladeworks. Check it out. I love that CQC 13, one of my favorite clip point knives ever. Speaking of one of my favorite clip point knives ever, the Jack Wolf Knives Cyborg Jack. I carried this because I knew I was going to be showing off its little brother here tonight, because the mini Cyborg Jack is available tomorrow from Jack Wolf Knives and at all of the retailers. He's got a whole bunch of retailers now that he's built up over the last 2 years. And the mini version of this, which is about the size of the little bro Jack, is dropping tomorrow. So I love this. This is an original pattern by Ben Belkin, who does a lot of retakes of old patterns, but this is totally his. Love that. My fixed blade today in the left pocket. We talked about pocket kicks, fixed carry blades, and how I only have 3 that I do it with. 3 now. And here it is. This is the Beckwith Covert by Fisher Blade Company. Chaz is here with us, waiting, champing at the bit to give one away to one of you lucky guys. And I know I've been talking about it a lot, so here it is. I've been carrying this quite a bit. I go back and forth because this is the first pocket carry fixed blade that I've really actually EDC'd quite a bit. I do have the Northman from Amtac Blades, and though I love that, I've carried this one more. To me, this is a little bit more. Well, it just fits my hand better, and but I've been carrying it left side, but in the right side sheath, and I have some observations about that. But I love this knife, and though it is a dedicated self-defense knife, it does work great in EDC situations. Look at that, like 2 spoons in a drawer, how those 2 knives fit together. They're like, it's like a romantic coupling there. All right, I'm going to put that right there. I'm going to separate them. Space for the Holy Spirit between those 2 knives. And then the last thing I had on me was the old, it's not old, but for emotional support, my emotional support knife was the Stout by Devo Knives. I love this knife and hadn't carried it in a while. And every morning, 5 a.m. or so, I see Scab's videos for the day, what he's going to be carrying, Choir Boy's cutlery, and he's been carrying his Stout lately. He's got one of the later ones with the swedge, and what a great knife this is. Nice and svelte, nice broad blade. Reminds me of a at first I used to say it was a Bowie, but now I think it's more of a Hudson Bay knife. To me, this is like a pocket Hudson Bay trapper trade knife. I love the big belly on this. I love the rounded clip. I don't know if that's a drop or a clip, what you would call that. But to me, it's evocative of an old trade knife, Hudson Bay knife. All right, so that's what I had on me today. Well, what did you have on you? I'm going to leave one of these 3 down here, and we're going to talk about it quite a bit. And that is the Beckwith Covert. Let's say hi to Chaz Fisher, designer. Hey, Chaz, how you doing, man?
Hey, Bob. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. It's nice to have you here.
Yeah, it's good to be here.
So I got
I've never done one of these before. Do we have like a bunch of people that are listening in? Is that how it works?
Yep. They're listening and watching and commenting, and then at 11, we're gonna give this away. And we spin a wheel with a whole bunch of names on it of the patrons.
Oh, cool.
Who stand to win.
Do I get to virtually spin it from
yeah, you'll do the countdown.
All right.
So here I've been loving it. I've been carrying it and pulling it out so much that it's starting to wear on some of the coating, which
Oh, wait, before you talk about it, you didn't ask me what's in my pocket.
oh yeah, that's right. Tell
I
me.
mean, you assumed it's only like my Beckwith Coverts.
You're right. You're right. I should not make such presumptions. So tell me, what were you carrying today?
Well, I do have 2 Beckwith Coverts, but like we say at Fisher Blades, 1 is good, 2 is gooder, and 3 is goodest, right? So I have 3 knives on me, and I do have, of course, I have a covert right. I got a covert on the left, and you know my opinions about what those are to be used and not to be used for. And since I do have to, like,
we'll talk about that in a second.
We'll talk about that.
Yeah.
And since I do have to open stuff up every day, I carry this tiny little thing in my right pocket. I don't make this. This is made by Stabby Labs, this little company. I'm not sure where they're out of, maybe Arizona or California or something like that.
Oh, cool.
It's just a little frame lock, tiny Tanto blade that is actually perfect for opening boxes. And I can one-hand it because it has a little thumb stud. And it just fits in with in my pocket next to the covert, and that's what I whip out when I need to open up boxes. So that's my pocket dump.
You know, that's a great segue, because that is a Tanto as well, and your first knife as the new Fisher blade company is this extreme Tanto. I shouldn't say extreme, but it's a very, very much a Tanto, an Americanized Tanto. Let's get the focus here. And so your little EDC that you open boxes with, and your dedicated, and in your case, double self-defense carry, is a Tanto. What do you love about the Tanto shape?
Well, I have to say I'm a little late to Tanto love. I haven't always liked Tanto. And what I like about it is its penetrating capabilities on penetrating cuts, on slashes. And I love it because it cuts probably about 50%, a little less than 50% better than many other blade shapes. You know, and every blade shape maybe is a little bit different, but I was testing it against some spear points and some drop points. And it's almost 50% greater cut penetration than those style of those shapes of blades. And it really has to do with that Tanto intersection where you get a concentration of force, you know, on this part right here. As you are cutting, it pierces further into the cut, so you get greater depth on your cuts. That's what I love about it.
Secondary point, you know, it's a knife. You get 2 edges and you get 2 points, basically. You know, Lynn Thompson of Cold Steel, a lot of his older videos early on, when he was trying to convince people about Tantos, he would talk about things very much in a fighting sense, because he did a lot of does a lot of training, and he used to talk about that secondary point as a percussive, you know, especially on a larger Tanto, if you're in some sort of a fighting situation where you're squared off. That's not kind of what this is, and that also is not a very realistic scenario, but say it is. You use that flicking motion like a drumstick to hit the forehead with that secondary point, and it just causes a lot of, especially if you're sweating, and just causes a lot of blood to kind of.
I mean, he makes me think of like a rock and roll band. He's a real good showman.
Yeah,
so I can see him doing that.
Yeah, and talking about it convincingly.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's an impressive guy for sure. But really, I feel like the Tanto shape, and which I guess he introduced to a large extent back in the day, but this Tanto shape is very, very useful, not only for self-defense, but you know, I know I keep mentioning it to you, but for EDC. And the reason I mention it is not to be a contrarian, because I know what you designed this for, and I love purpose-driven design. But it's also to expand the audience, because people need to know that this is more than just a fighting knife or a self-defense knife.
Yeah. Well, it's not the concept is not a foreign one to me on this knife, because, as you know, I think I told you my brother's been carrying it really as an EDC, and he uses it for everything. And when I was designing it, and he gave, he provided a lot of feedback during that process. It was primarily my knife, but he was involved, and he kept on telling me that people would want to use it as EDC, and that he probably would use it as EDC. And he is. And so, I'm not going to, if that's what people want to use it for, that's fine. But I've got mine for something else.
Yeah. And when I'm carrying it, kind of like you, I have other knives on me that are coming out first to do the lightweight chores I do, open boxes, cut bagels, whatever it is, I don't live the high speed life. But I can understand the wanting to leave the edge pristine. But I mean, I like the spirit of it, I guess I should say, but I'm still tempted to just pull it out and use it, because it's
that's really my thing, is keeping the edge pristine, because I do know what it's like to cut into a pig carcass with a dull knife, and it's not a lot of fun. So I want my edges to always be sharp.
Yeah. Robert Strebin, good to have you here. He says, "Hey, Bob, Jim, and all you knife junkies out there. I'm able to catch the live stream tonight. There are so many knife blades that I like. It would be so hard for me to decide which one would be favorite." Well, Robert, what do you think of the Tanto? We're talking about the Tanto right now. Let me know what you think of that blade shape, and what you think is it's best for. And actually, it's kind of low-hanging fruit, Chaz, because it was originally designed as a self-defense thing, right?
Yeah.
That is the spirit of the blade. Hey, Dion, how's it going? Hello, King Junkie, Jim, and all you junkies. Dion, we're giving this away to a Gentleman Junkie tonight. Not this one, because this one is mine. Let me show you the package that Chaz sent. I didn't unwrap your knife, whoever you are who will win this. But here's what you'll get when you open the box. I like this Fisher blades. Montana, established 2020, Montana, USA. You make everything in the United States, that's right?
Yes, everything with this knife, including the sheath, including the box that's in, and the paper that it's wrapped in, is US made.
Nice. So the knife is in here, and I don't know what serial number it is, but these are all numbered. And in it also comes the Constitution, which everyone should have a copy of. And not for nothing, but that's why I think they don't teach kids cursive anymore. That's so that they can't read our founding documents. But anyway, that's why we sent our girls to a Catholic school. They learn their cursive. You have a birth card here. This was assembled by Chaz, sharpened by John, your brother, and final inspection by Chaz. Comes with a Band-Aid and a packet of beef jerky, and then the Beckwith Covert user manual. This is really cool. It has different first of all, the different functions of the knife, the anatomy of the knife broken down, different ways you can carry it and use it, different ways you can grip it and draw it, and then here, different targets. It's funny because I showed my daughter this because my younger daughter asked, "Can you kill someone by stabbing them in the butt?" And I was like, well, technically, I didn't use the word taint, but like, there's a space near the butt that's pretty. All you got to do is right there. Funny question, but nothing new in the DeMarco household. But so this is the full package you'll be winning tonight. If you are if you're the lucky Gentleman Junkie. Tell me about the sheath and how you designed it. Well, actually, I do want to talk about the sheath, but we have not finished talking about the blade yet, because you were talking about biological, what do they call it? Live medium testing, not live, organic
matter.
Testing. Yeah.
Organic matter. Yeah. Organic medium. Yeah. So I've done a bunch of testing on pig carcasses, and that's how I got the depth, the cut depth comparison between the Tanto and some other blade shapes. And like I said, it surprised me, because at the time I had not been any big fan of Tantos. I didn't dislike them or anything, but I didn't realize that what would happen. And so that opened my eyes to the Tanto blade shape. And I learned other things. I learned about the stabability of a blade and its blade shape, how important that is. And in this particular Tanto that we have, it's, as you pointed out, an Americanized Tanto. So it's it's less, it's got a sharper angle and a more acute angle, rather, between the spine and that distal edge, what I call the distal edge. And so its ability to penetrate on stabbing or thrusting is also pretty darn good.
Yeah.
And I recently did a carcass test that we put on our YouTube channel, and it shows that pretty effectively, like stabbing through a leather jacket into the pig carcass. I mean, absolutely no problem getting through that material.
Yeah, that video was particularly alarming. You think, well, a leather jacket's going to give you good protection. It might if the guy's got a very dull and old gas station knife and things are very dynamic, but not not with this. Also, your tip has a very stabby angle, as opposed to, we were talking cold steel before. A cold steel Tanto generally tends to be steeper at the tip, and to me this makes it way thrustier.
Yeah.
Craig says, Bob, I stand by my earlier statement about loving them all, but the more I dig into the history of Gurkhas and the Kukris, the more impressed I am with that blade. Yes,
cool
yes,
blade.
no doubt, and I love the power of the recurve, and you kind of get that here in the. Oh, hey Byron, hang on one second, Byron. You kind of get that right here with the way the arc of the handle, the thumb ramp, and then the blade.
Yeah, well, you get it with the blade geometry of the angle between the grip, the handle, and the blade and its angle. It's not straight across, right? And so when you are holding it, you do get an extension of it extends beyond just this plane here to that plane there as you're wielding the blade.
Hence the wicked secondary tip slashing you were talking about. Splitting slices. We have Byron with us. How you doing, Byron? Good to have you as always. Howdy, Bob, Jim, junkies. Better late than never. Had overtime at shop and all the chores since Mrs. Slices is in North Carolina for work. So you're a bachelor. You're a bachelor this weekend, huh? Pocket check, Cold Steel Recon 1 Spear Point, an old favorite of yours, I know. Old timer 123 Slippy and off grid Necker. Sounds like a good day around Byron's household. Not legal in California. Good to have you here. Not legal. I always carry my Almar Mini Sear. Oh, that's such a cool blade. Fixed blade knife in the front pocket for a long time. Number 187 of 200. Damn. And 187 is kind of a cool number, right? For a knife. I listened to rap at one point, not anymore, but Fernando Selame says, carry the Benchmade Adira. What's the Adira? Is that the new one of those new blue handled ones? They have some cool new ones that are kind of competing with the Salt series. Tree Stab and Troy, good to have you here. I have a green micarta Cyborg and I love it, but in my opinion, it would be better if it was a Tanto. Funny you should say that. Okay, I want to show you what you're talking about, because I too feel that way, or I feel like it almost is a Tanto. Yes, it's a clip point, obviously, but so straight there and kind of straight there and a belly. It's not too far from a Tanto. So I agree with you, Tree Stab and Troy. Are you going to get the mini that's being released tomorrow? The mini Cyborg Jack. Very cool. I'll show you mine in a few minutes. Ben sent me one. Adrian Fighter 35 says, my carry for today was my usual Cold Steel Coben serrated for work. I like that, by the way, the serrated. Mini Tac Bowie, also for work. What do you do? Are you an assassin? Double Agent 1 serrated for self-defense. My new Voyager Vaquero Love that. Serrated edge for fun and emotional support, I'm assuming. So tell me about the pocket carry nature of this and why pocket carry?
Well, I trained in the martial arts a fair bit, and I'm my particular style is a close range striking style. And so our boogeyman in that world is the ground fighter, is the clinch and ground fighter, right? And so I like to put myself in situations where I'm uncomfortable. And so I have some guys that I train that are very good at ground fighting. And so when they get me on the ground and I don't like what's going on, I want to be able to access my tools. And I have found in the variety of positions that they put me in that the easiest spot for me to access is that front pocket. It's not the back pocket. It's not a hip pocket. It's not to say the front pocket is 100% accessible. There are occasions when, even that is taken away from you. But more than any other spot on the body, that was the place that was accessible for me. And even better than the belt, for example, because your hands could get sort of pinned to you in a lower position. And for example, right, or you could have something around your belt area that keeps you from getting underneath it, like legs, right? If you're being pinned. And so that kind of precluded belt for me. And front pocket, it made sense. It made sense to me. It's very accessible without having to go around or whatever. And I can access it when I'm sitting down very easily. So
something I've noticed. Well, it's something I've noticed because, like I was saying earlier, I haven't really carried fixed front pocket that much, but it's so intuitive because I've been carrying a pocket knife there for so long that it's after remembering that when I reach to my pocket, I'm not getting a folder, I'm getting a fixed blade, and you recognize that immediately. But it's very, very intuitive just because we're always reaching to our right. Most of us are right-handed. We're always reaching to the pocket for something. Usually it's our knife, or to make sure the knife is there, or check our phone, or whatever it is. OG Blade Review says, today I'm rocking the blunderbuss of blades. The new Max Ace Vortex S, 1 foot long and a pound of steel and
nice.
SLD Magic blade. That's cool. I don't know what the SLD Magic means. Is that some sort of steel? Spyderco Spymato. Oh, that's the little lion steel, right? Yeah, lion steel and M390. I saw that video today. And the Chavez Redencion 229 with kickstop. That's a beautiful blade. That's another Tanto. Are you familiar with that one, Chaz? The Chavez?
No. Your people have a lot of knife knowledge. I'm really impressed.
Yeah, junkie. It's the apt word here. But the Chavez knives are the Redencion and some others. But he does a Tanto Americanized-ish, but with a really deep hollow grind, and it just has a beautiful look to it. Like a straight razor kind of. Let's see. Joseph S says CRKT Homefront. So that's one of those field strip models. Lex Rex Quaken. I don't know that. Lex Rex Quaken. Essie Zancudo. Mora Garberg and Leatherman Signal when hiking 6.67 miles. Nice. Nicely done. Keep moving, Joseph S. Support your support. Hey, support. I'm carrying an Umnumzan, an Emerson Commander, and an Amphibian. The Commander and the Amphibian, two great knives, are quite similar, similar enough. And when I got my Amphibian, I was like, this is just like when I was lusting for an Emerson Commander 25 years ago. I still love a recurve. Like we were just talking about. Very, very efficient cutting. Will B says, Grimsmo Norseman. Okay, check this out, Chaz. Will B is one of our 10 knife carriers. Grimsmo Norseman, Olamic Soloist, Hinderer XM24 Battlefield pickup Sponto, Microtech Ramlock Stitch, ZT0562 tie, Protec Mordax, Axial Shift, Hogtooth Nova 1. What do you know? The Hogtooth Nova 1,
Nice.
Riot Exo, Olight Warrior Nano, and the Karis Bolt V2. The Nova 1 is the first knife I designed. Well, I designed the blade to go on a chassis that already existed by my good buddy Matt Chase at Hogtooth Knives. And Wilby is one of the lucky guys to get one. Have a Knife Day says, Chaz, greetings from Missoula.
Nice.
All right, wait. Where's you're in Montana? Where?
No, not right now. I'm in Seattle right now. I split my time.
Okay, but the where you build your knives is in Montana.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. We're in Missoula.
Big Sky. Oh, that's cool. So Byron so he's visiting there. Kane Ace. Oh, I'm sorry. What did Kane say? Chaz. Oh, yeah. So Have a Knife Day is in Missoula, but is that where you live? Have a Knife Day? I thought you were in California. Kane A says, today I carried my Hawk Deadlock Model C. Kane, this is not jealousy. This is envy. Let's see. Warney JC Scout 2.0 and custom Esnix Beer Buster in blue paper micarta. I'm very excited. Last night I interviewed Evan Nicolaitis, maker, designer of the Esnix Beer Buster, and what a great guy. We had a great conversation. First time I had a slip joint maker, I realized on this show after all that time. Pretty cool. Steve the Ripper says, I would say it's pretty extreme in a good way. Excellent. You know that's, if that's what we're talking about, these kind of knives. Eo Mohundro. Let's see. Eo Mohundro. Eo, good to have you here. Pinkerton Slim and new inversion. Love the inversion. Civivi McKenna. Chaz, in the way of folding knives, I know you've got that cool tiny little knife on you that you open boxes and stuff with. Are you generally, let's take the Beckwith Covert out of the picture for a second. Say pre Beckwith. What kind of knives did you carry before you started making them?
I carried a lot of different knives. I really liked carrying the Spyderco Delica, as you know, right?
Oh, yeah.
I told you that's been a pretty big influence on me, and there are a lot of things I like about it. A few things that I kind of wanted to change, and of course I can't change the Delica. I worked with SOG for years, and so I carried all sorts of SOGs every day. I carry all sorts of knives. Just because I work for SOG doesn't mean I only carried SOG knives.
Sure.
But I carried a bunch of theirs. I carried their Vision for a while, which I thought was great, but maybe a little bit too bulky. It sort of impeded on a daily basis. But I liked the manual open. I don't really, for self-defense, I don't really like assisted opening or autos. I think that they're prone to failure, and I don't want that failure. And I worked for Boker for a while. I like Boker's grandpa knives. They're traditional knives.
Yeah,
they're very cool. They're slip joints. And I have a couple of those that I still will sometimes carry because I like them.
Burnt Toast says, evening junkies and junkettes. Evening to you, sir. Shane, Edgy American, good to have you here, sir. Good evening, guys and gals. Shane, I will be cavorting with you in several weeks here. Doug Bull says, does that Fisher Tanto favor a certain grip for self-defense?
Yeah, I would say it favors the saber grip. And Bob, you might have a differing opinion on this because you've got you like this grip.
Yeah.
Edge out reverse grip, which I don't dislike, right? But it's really made primarily for its primary grip, an initial grip to be the saber grip. That's what I intended for it. Now you could, and Bob, you've been carrying it to actually draw it and edge out reverse grip, I think, right? And
I actually
left-handed sheath.
I've actually been I've gone back to, because you kind of convinced me. Well, first of all, I want to show you have in the user manual 4 different grips here, which I love. Hammer grip, saber grip, Pikal grip, and regular reverse. But so after the last time we spoke, I moved back to the right hand for two reasons. So right hand sheath in the right hand pocket
Hmm.
uh,
Hmm.
allows me the cant so that I can grab it. It
Yeah.
also makes it easier when I sit down because I do a lot of sitting at work,
Hmm.
with the angle. And I want you to tell me about that in a minute, the sheath angle and clip. But so I end up now drawing it a lot in this Picall grip like this.
Hmm.
And I
Yep.
love the quillion for kind of grabbing onto the webbing between my thumb and my forefinger. And I find that it draws really well. I have a medium-sized hands. I could see how someone with giant meat, meat hooks, this might be a little small, but for I think most normal adult males, who grew up on uh, bovine growth hormone in their milk, this will be just fine. Yeah. So
Well,
I
it was
really like it in Picall.
it was important to us that it could work in each of those grips, because I use each of those grips in my training. So it's not like I just exclusively use that saber grip. I use them all, and I just tend to favor that saber grip. In fact, I show it in that carcass cutting video. I do a pull cut in that very grip you're talking about, and what I call the edge in reverse grip. And I mean, that's incredibly effective. It might be one of the most effective and devastating wounds you can put on a living thing, is with that draw cut.
Yeah, I would imagine just using your weight.
Mm-hmm.
Dave
Yeah.
says it's often Dave had another cool comment back there that I didn't address, but Dave says it's often Dave has just so you know, Chaz, Dave of OG Blade Reviews is definitely someone you want to know. He's got an incredible collection of fixed blade knives, both large and small, and is senior to both of us and trained for years with Bill McGrath, I think, and
Yeah, cool.
several other legends in Kali. So he knows blades from a cutting perspective. Is often disregarded that blade geometry differs vastly with size of blades. What works for a sword doesn't necessarily work for a short knife. Warnies seem to have the best balance of thrust and cut. Interesting. I've been wanting to make a pork man, just for the fun of it, and because but maybe I've graduated to a pig carcass. Edgy American says the best blade shape is the one you have on you daily. Well, yeah, that's for dang.
Absolutely true.
That's
We
for
all know
dang
that.
sure. But let's all assume we all have a knife on us daily because we're watching something right now. Yeah. Let's see. I saw a triple edged Tanto, a gentleman who I had on the show, Andrew Farlano of Trained Monkey Knives, has a triple edged Tanto, and I was like, that's interesting. I haven't seen that too much. I'm always going for as many edges.
Meaning the top edge is the swedge is sharpened.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
from the looks of it, it's sharpened to like a zero edge. I have a for instance this Jed
I think that makes a
Hornbeak.
lot of sense.
Yeah, this Jed Hornbeak fighter
Yeah.
here has a very, very sharp, hollow, thin edge here, but a very oblique yet
Yeah.
Scandi ground edge there. Yeah.
Yeah. For the record, we would have done that, I think, on the covert, except that you immediately make it a double-edged knife, and there are a lot of municipalities where that is really not well viewed by the authorities, and so we decided to let people do that on their own rather than encourage them to immediately break the law.
That I think that's a huge thing. That's why I think so many knives, like so many knives that look like they should be double-edged daggers aren't double-edged, like the night stick, by which I still think is a stupid name, by Spyderco, which is a beautiful looking dagger, but it's single-edged.
Mm-hmm.
Have a Knife Day says decapitate the thumbs up button. That's right, people. That's right. Woo! Tip stab it. Edgy American says carried the Mannix XL all day. I love the Mannix. Do you know the Mannix, Chaz?
I don't.
It's a big leaf-shaped Spyderco, and it looks like Oh, it looks like a barong. It's such a sweet knife. Five Door says,
Oh.
Chaz, thanks for joining the show and offering your awesome knife. Very cool.
No, thanks, Five Door. Appreciate it.
Yeah, he stands to win in just a few minutes. Burnt Toast says, today I have my RMJ UCAP. RMJ, I know RMJ, but I'm not sure what the UCAP is. Is that the screwdriver? ProTech Godson, what a cool knife. Case Sodbuster, Olight Baton 2, and custom pry bar made of 01. Tool steel, which is an air hardened steel, I think, and antique Westinghouse micarta.
Nice.
So I think
nice
Westinghouse made so much micarta, and they made this gigantic underground deposit because people keep coming up with antique Westinghouse micarta. I'm like, my God, they were productive. Dion Page says Luzon and Spike Tanto at the ready. Love both of those,
cool.
Man. Jesse, Missoula, the Seattle of Montana. Is that right?
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. It's probably not far from the truth.
I would say 10 years ago it would have been a good thing. I don't know. I haven't been to Seattle in ages, so I don't know. But all the big major cities, and I've lived in 2 of them in the last 20 years. Yeah, man. They're going off the deep end. Have a Knife Day says, I love to the old school SOG fixed blades. Me too.
No doubt.
There's
some very nice ones in there.
Yeah. Patty's Nuts says, I have a Civivi Sokoke. I have the Civivi Sokoke that I use to cut my sleeves off. Very nice, man. And an Asher Fixie today for work. I like the imagery, just like, hopefully you left the shirt on. Right on. Frankie Frank says, what would be an ideal size blade for self-defense to EDC?
I think it's a very personal thing. I think, a lot of it depends on what kind of style you use your blade with, if you're a stabber, a slasher, or both. You don't need a very big blade to get to arteries. Most arteries are really only a few inches at most below the surface of the skin. So you could do it with a 2-inch blade. You could do it with a 1-inch blade. I thought 3 inches was a pretty darn good depth. Now, will it stab somebody, a big man in the heart? Probably not. But I wouldn't be going for that anyway. I'd be going for rendering their limbs, useless. Or
defanging the snake,
or making them leak out, and that's what I would be going for.
Well, actually, on kind of extrapolating out from Frankie's question, fixed blade or folder. Obviously, you chose a fixed blade. Self-defense, to me, a folder just seems. Though I have so many knives intended as folding, fighting, and self-defense knives. Unless it's got a wave to me, and that's no guarantee, unless it has like a wave opening feature and you just pull it out of your pocket and it snaps open immediately, like I feel like folders are dangerous, or not dangerous, but something you really have to practice. Steve the Ripper says, I was going to say that shape of Tanto looks great for a pull cut. A long, thinner Tanto would be a better stabber. Yeah, that is something I like about this. I wouldn't say it is long because it's only 3 inches and it's not necessarily thin, but that tip does extend and become quite acute. And I like that for that sort of penetration part. Edgy American says, that said, I think the best is a hollow ground Warney. I like the hollow ground Warney. I'm with you. I also like a good clip point. Steve the Ripper says, I prefer a 3.5 to 4 inch folder and a 3-inch fixed. I'm with you there. Well, not so much 3-inch fixed. I don't have a rule. It's more an overall size rule for an EDC fixed blade, but for a folder, me too. 3.5 to 4, because when I first started collecting modern folding fixed blades, everything was 4 inches back in the day. Like when they were, like the old AFTC or whatever, the Bob Terzuola one, which I didn't have, and the Benchmade, they ate the one that introduced the triad line. Everything was 4 inches, all the cold steel, and that's what I got used to. And then, but for fixed blades, yeah, smaller is better because it's easier to stash. Burnt Toast says the UCAP is the self-defense Bowie, up close and personal. And the Westinghouse micarta was harvested off an end table by me and gifted to my buddy who's a maker. How cool! That is cool. My brother got me a helmet liner from World War II that's made of Westinghouse micarta, because they used to make helmet, the metal helmet for a soldier or a Marine, and then the inside had a liner that had the webbing and everything.
I agree with Edgy American.
You can get someone off of you with a 1-inch blade. Yeah. Yep. Can you make them stay off of you with a 1-inch blade? Well placed. There's an old story. I think it wasn't Beckwith. It wasn't Fairbairn. Who's the other one? I know there are a lot of famous guys, but Applegate. Applegate was, I know he did a lot of time in China, I think, being a policeman in Shanghai, and then he did time in Mexico being, working on the border. He was being marched out to the desert by a couple of, I don't know who, but it was I believe in Mexico, to be killed. And he had a 1-inch penknife on him that he managed to kill his captor with, just like, little.
Oh, wow. That's quite a story. Well, yeah. The brachial artery on the average man is only about an inch below the surface of the inside of the arm. And so if you know where to cut, a 1-inch blade can get a lot of work done.
Yeah.
But you have to know where to cut.
Yeah. I immediately lose interest if a folder is under 3.5 inches. You're like a Seinfeld character, like she had man hands, or she was a low talker. Jason, good to have you here, Jason Lotz. I am sitting on the couch, but I'm still wearing my Tops saw, nicely done, my Essie Azula neck knife, and my automatic Benchmade Presidio 2 in my pocket. Jason, you never know.
Nice lineup.
Yeah. And you never know who's going to walk through that door, right? Whether you're on the couch or not.
Yeah, never rest. Not even at home. Not even when you're sleeping.
That's right. It's right. Like Chuck Norris, sleep with your eyes open. Power Play for Real says, I like my Bush Ranger 3.5-inch folder. Bush Ranger. Is that a cold steel? I'm wondering if that's cold steel. All right, we got to give this knife away in a second here. Craig Vincent says, some of us carry a few knives daily. This is not due to a high degree of competency with blades, but rather a lack of it. I'm very strong and can rapidly chuck 600 pounds of steel while I bleed. Very nice, Craig.
Nice. That's a good strategy.
Yeah, and I like the honesty. Shane says, a short fixed blade is really hard to be taken away. That's another thing. Before we give this away, let me talk about the handle of this knife, because it's a major feature here. Obviously, it's a blade, it's a knife, so it's got a handle, but it is so much about the deployment. Hang on. Byron says they will stay off of you. They're busy compressing their carotid artery. You're right. Well said. Yes, it's a cold steel, says Power Play. Quillions. We got a quillion here stopping your finger from coming onto the blade. We have one back here that totally aids in drawing the blade, whether in reverse grip, like I like to do, reverse, or like edge in reverse, especially on the web of that is great. But also when you're reaching into your pocket, when it's regular saber grip and you're kind of tracking down the spine of the handle with your thumb and kind of pulling it out this way, oftentimes it's this finger or the pinky that's engaging that and pulling it out. So
that's its primary purpose, but there's a secondary purpose too, and that's on the stab into organic material. It is to aid in pulling it out, because there's a lot of stuff that can get caught up in that process, right? And the finger guard, or the front quillion as you call it, could get caught up into clothing. It could just get caught up in there because it's dense material, right, that you're stabbing into. And so that rear quillion helps you pull the knife out as you're you're withdrawing it from whatever you stabbed it into. And as it turns out, it's really important. It's one of the big things I tried to improve upon on the the Delica experience, because the Delica doesn't have anything like that. And it's, again, it's a wonderful knife and I love it. And I've got probably 10 of them, but I don't want to leave that Delica in whatever I'm stabbing. I want to bring it with me, whatever knife I'm stabbing with.
I know you talked about it on the podcast interview, but tell people what you mean when you say the Delica experience.
Well, the experience of trying to withdraw a Delica or any knife that doesn't have a some sort of a positive thing in the pommel section in the pommel to help hold on to as you're pulling it out. And I got you. Again, I'm not picking on the Delica. Like I said,
I know that was an influence. I was conflating that with the story you told me where you were stabbing with, I don't remember if it was a Delica now, but it inspired you to put the finger guard on this.
Yeah, that was with a SOG knife actually, and it was a SOG knife that had a pretty shallow finger choil in the handle, and I didn't slip onto the blade. I actually went into the wound with my hand because it was a cut like that. And, it was like a thrust / stab. And I opened up quite a big wound channel and my hand went all the way in, but the blade, as it went in, cut a vertebrae into a very sharp edge. And my finger just rode right along that edge and it cut it to the bone. And so that's why I was thinking of that when I designed this finger guard, to actually protect the hand from stuff inside the wound and the edge itself, of course. I don't want to ride onto my own edge. Yeah. So that's why that finger guard is there.
So Power Play for Real says that's a furious looking blade, and I like the top on that puppy. What was there was something from there was another one just saying that it looked like the perfect size. Oh, Steve the Ripper. That's right. That honestly looks like a perfect size handle. I wear a large size glove and don't want any extra handle. Yeah, especially if you're using this thing as a self-defense knife, the handle is a leverage point for taking a knife from someone. So the less that's presented on the puño side, the better. And here you can cap that with your thumb. Not legal in California says, I work for a bank in check forgery department every day. The Tanto blade is probably perfect to have for my line of work. Yes, I would say it is. So go check it out. Edgy American says, I used to carry a pilar until threatened with a large blade. I will never carry another non-aggressive blade. Oh, that's interesting. The pilar is a beautiful little EDC knife from CRK. I think that is CRKT designed by Voxnez. And I could see how that would be a disappointing knife to have in that moment. Craig Vincent, Chaz, if you carry enough of them, no worries. You can leave a knife in everything. Yes. I like that. That is the spirit. All right. So let's do this. Let's do this giveaway here. We have the knife. Here. Well, this is my knife, as I mentioned, but I'll put the box down because I'm just going to put a different label on it and send it to you just as it was sent to me here. So look at that artistic setup there. I'm not sure why I have the ruler out anymore. Don't need it, but this is what you'll be getting. All right, Jim, let's pull up that list and let me read off our patrons. And I'm going to take a sip of coffee. So the giveaway tonight is for the Gentleman Junkies, which is our high tier of support on Instagram, on Patreon, and it's our way of saying thank you from the bottom of our hearts. Let's see. Now, Jeff Wright just joined us like 20 minutes before the show, so I'll start with him. Jeff Wright, because I don't want to forget him. He's not in this list. I'm going to start now. Jeff Wright, thank you very much for joining, sir. Five Door, Ben Belkin, Byron Kennedy, Caleb Townsend, Cam Michael, Colin Maison-Pierre, Craig Vincent, Doug Bull, Edwin Callow, Gavin Colitis, Jay McConnell, Jesse Tellis, Jock Knife, JVF, Mark Salva, Martin Gamboa, Mr. VC256, Never Enough Knives 007, PJ DOEF, Scott Nelson, Sean Curry, Shane Miller, Stephen Michael Robert, right around the corner, Tony Kim, V2, who knows who he is, aka Northern Knives, and Will B. All right, guys. And then I also want to say thanks to our other patrons. Most people join at the $10 level. So great thanks to all, one and all. All right, let's get that wheel up, and Chaz can do the countdown.
How do I do that? Coach me here.
Jim's going to bring it up in a sec. The Wheel of Destiny, I think, is what we call it, basically. And all you have to do is
just
count
like
from
the space shuttle or something. I just go 10, 9, 8, all the way down. Is that how that works?
We usually go from 3, but you can start at 10. Hey, why not? Build up some suspense. Well, wait. So as Jim pulls up the wheel, let me show you these. These things are
cool.
awesome. By Pocket.
Is that aluminum?
Furious Pocket. No, this is here. I'm going to put it under this thing here. This is 3D printed.
Oh, wow.
Some sort of resin that's really tough, but really light. So I've really walloped my Bob dummy with this, and it's the first pair of knuckles that I've used that haven't like hurt my hand on the first or second punch. These really nestle in the hand so nicely. Yeah. I'm going to get their brass equivalent to get some weight. All right. So this wheel represents all of our Gentleman Junkies. All the names are there, including our newest member, Jeff Wright. So on your mark, sir.
3, 2, 1.
Yes. I like the enthusiasm. All right, so it always like gives us a red herring. Let's see who's where. Yeah, whoa, Martin Gamboa, nicely done, sir.
Martin Gamboa.
All right, Martin's been with us for quite a while. That's awesome, Martin. I'm hoping you're watching. If not, I will get in touch with you and let you know that you've won this. What an awesome prize, and what a generous giveaway. Thank you, Charles, for Charles, I've suddenly become your father. Thank you, Charles. Thank you, Chaz, for
I get nervous when people call me Charles. My mom calls me Charles when I'm in trouble. So
I know. Suddenly I'm like, no, but thank you for that, because it's a really very generous giveaway. Tell folks how they can find this. And Pat These Nuts is PJDOF. Awesome. Joined last night. Pat, welcome. Pat These Nuts. I couldn't say his name for about 5 weeks without busting out laughing. That's how mature I am. Bob's Pocket Knives, Sonic Knuckles. Hey, Bob's Pocket Knives. I'm liking your name, bro. I love it. Yeah, these are Sonic. They can go pretty fast. Bob's Pocket Knives. If you have a channel, I will find you and I will check you out. Edgy American. Knuckles should have a small spike on the outward facing end. It
looks like they do.
Yeah. This one here.
Maybe not spike, but a bump, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's my opinion that the one universal strike you can do with Knuckles, whether you have this kind that has a very small base that you can actually make a real fist with and punch naturally, or the other kind that has the little pedestal that butts into your palm, you cannot close your fist and you're punching like this, which I don't like. But in either, the one strike you can do consistently is a hammer fist. So this one, I agree with you, Shane. This one kind of already has it, but even if it doesn't have a spike, just just hitting with that bang, or with this, like there is a punch that we do sometimes, just from you're standing there with your hands down at your sides and suddenly you have to punch someone, and it's a fist just rising up from its natural resting point and burying into the floating ribs with these two, and that would work with these two knuckles. That would work great with this. Just bang. It's like it's not that hard, but it's painful. And you add a little extra to it, and it's gonna hurt. Pain compliance.
Bull
really.
makes a good comment.
I realize that Doug says, I realize that stabbing or slicing is a personal preference, but in weather requiring multiple leathers, I believe stabbing is superior. Yeah, that's what the Roman army learned. They went from their recurve, what is it, a falcata, the thing that looked kind of like a kukri, and a slashing implement to a thrusting implement, to the gladius. And they had to retrain soldiers to thrust. It's not the natural inclination to thrust. People are more likely to slash. And they were leaving a bunch of dying people on the battlefield, and they had to employ pikemen to go around and kill all that. So it was a monetary thing, the Romans.
Bunch of extra work.
Yeah, and we got to pay these guys. Like, learn how to thrust. Splitting slices. Congrats, Martin G. And big kudos to Chaz at Fisher Knives for the Beckwith Covert. Donation / giveaway. Thank you, Byron. Yeah, for sure. A very generous giveaway. And Martin, congratulations. Chaz, on our interview, during our interview, you mentioned you have some other Beckwith plans. But first, who was Colonel Beckwith?
Charlie Beckwith was an American Army officer who came on board into the Army during the Korean conflict, and then saw a bunch of action during the Vietnam conflict, and did some training with the SAS in England very early in his career, and got the bug in him to create our version of the SAS, or a version of it, on the American side. And fought for many, many years to get that done. There was a lot of resistance within the bureaucracy of the Army, of the DoD, and everything else. And he persevered. And the story because you've read his biography too. But he persevered, and he finally got it done. And he founded Delta Force, and so which is one of the most elite bunches of operators in the world, tier 1 operators in the world. So I just admired him for his perseverance and his patriotism, and for getting shit done. So we named it in tribute to him.
Yeah, and he was quite a badass too. And wait, is that a picture of him on your T-shirt? Isn't that a famous?
No, this
picture?
is actually this is from a Fairbairn manual. I just thought it was kind of cool.
It is cool. If you can't tell what it is, it's an American soldier behind a Nazi soldier about to plunge in a
sentry takeout.
Yeah, put it in and push it out.
Yeah, boom, boom.
Nasty bit of work. Hey, let me show you something. This is another knife by another awesome designer that's coming out tomorrow. Jack Wolf Knives. Are you familiar, Chaz, with Jack Wolf Knives?
Not super familiar, but I've heard the name.
He is Ben Belkin. Started. I mean, he's a businessman, entrepreneur, but also just like a guy who loves slip joint knives. Has a very large collection of custom slip joints and Great Eastern cutlery knives. And about 2.5 years ago, he decided to start his own company, and took a long time to learn how to design and how to use CAD and stuff like that. And he's been producing these incredible slip joint knives.
Nice. I like the accented hardware there.
Yeah, that purple.
Nice.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's cool. It pops.
So this is a new release for him, and it's a miniaturized version of this. It's the mini Cyborg Jack, and this is the old Cyborg Jack. And thing that's interesting to me about this is that it's an original pattern. In the traditional slip joint world, there are old patterns that are retread and like trappers and that kind of thing. But this is all him, with this unique angular shape. So
I like it. I love it.
Yeah, I do too. And I'm excited to see it come out in this mini version because unlike most knives, I prefer my slip joints smaller. And listen to this. Not sure if that means anything to you, but walk and talk is a big thing with the slip joint, guys.
Yeah, beautiful
knife. So this comes out tomorrow, guys. Be sure to check it out at all of the Jack Wolf Knives retailers. It is sweet. Again, it's going to come in 5 different versions. This one in blasted titanium with the hand rub satin and the anodized hardware, and then there's a couple of exotic resins and carbon fibers and stuff. So definitely check that out. It's coming out tomorrow. I'm very excited about that. All these cool knives. Let's see. Bobby Noth, good to have you here, sir. Cool t-shirt, Mr. Fisher.
Thanks.
Is that something? Shirt. Do you guys sell that on your website?
Yeah.
So let me ask you, if you still got the time, let me ask you a couple other questions here. And some of the stuff we went over in the interview, but not everyone has seen it yet. But hang on. Bernto says, I like percussive self-defense tools. Growing up in New York, where the knife laws are ludicrous, a swift thump from something firm got me out of trouble a few times. I hear that. I mean, that hasn't happened to me, but I like that. Living in Florida now, anything goes. That's right. That's what we all love about Florida. We like to make fun, but we all wish we were there. Not legal in California says, at least Texas allows you to carry pretty much everything now if you have the license to carry. That's pretty cool. I was going to ask you about your brother and your partnership with your brother. We talk about that a lot on this show because a lot of knife enterprises are family businesses. So how does that work out with your brother, and what are your how do you separate your different roles?
Well, like many brothers, we both induce each other to do stupid things, but we keep each other from doing stupid things depending on what's going on at any given moment. And I'm being facetious, right? Because it's when we were younger, we definitely did stupid things. We made each other do dumb things. But it's great working with him. He's he's a knife guy. He's been making handmade knives for a long time under the Fisher Blades name. And we just thought it was time to introduce something kind of new to the game with that brand. And so he brings a very hands-on, lots of attention to every blade perspective and ethos to it. And I come from the a more production side, and so I understand how to get at least batches of a few hundred to 1,000 made. And so we've combined that, and every one of these blades has many hands and eyes on each one many times in the entire process. So we're able to catch things that and not send them out. I mean, there are knives that we caught that didn't pass and become destruction testers or shop knives or something like that.
Right.
And so that's what it's like working with my brother. He's a funny guy and makes me laugh, and I hope I make him laugh, and so it makes working with him good.
I mean, with brothers, there's a shorthand always, and you have that shared experience, so it almost makes communication easier. Hey, Jim, can you go back to the last comment from Robert von Darth? He says, I wanted to add regarding blade length, if we are striking closest target with longest tool, then I prefer as long a blade as possible to offend what offends attack the limbs. Yep. Fence. When you say fence, what does that mean? You mean like fencing, or I'm just curious what that meant. But I know I agree exactly. That would be my main target, the hands. And then who was just saying that they carry the dick pic all the time? I've got one right here that Zach sent me, and this thing is just it is so wicked. I have a hard time carrying it. It's got some sharp. Carrying it is difficult. Walk and talk is more annoying than the cicadas. Oh, Shane, no, it's not, Shane. It isn't. That walk and talk is what makes slip joint people get up in the morning. Craig Vincent says, I carried my Cold Steel Lucky today. It has awesome walk and talk as well. See, someone here values walk and talk. That Lucky is cool. It's a slip joint that's got 2 serpentine blades. Not legal in California says, I carry a brick in my purse. Like Bobby Hill. That's my purse. Don't you know?
That's good. That's one of the best lines of the night. I'm gonna
best
use
defense
that.
tool. That and Dale's pocket sand. Power play for real. Texas is the great state of carrying. Yeah, I had fun down there when I was there in November. Let's see. Robert Von Dar says, believe it or not, blade types and length restrictions in Washington state is mostly in the blue cities. The state itself is quite allowing. That's kind of like New York State, how New York State is a giant state. And, I know they get a lot of their state tax funding from New York City, but it's like the whole state has to abide by New York City's gun laws. And it's crazy. Frankie Frank says, I have to design the perfect knife for self-defense, of course, with the help of y'all's. Well, yeah, let's see it. Start drawing and start showing it. You can join the show by coming on TheKnifeJunkie.com/join and show it to us, and we'll tell you what we think. Not legal in California says, so unfortunate that the places with the highest rates of violent crime have the strictest laws on what you can carry for self-defense. Well, that's why it's the rate of highest crime. I mean, it might be chicken or egg, but I think people see it's a gun-free zone and they bring their guns there. The dick pic is very easy to carry in the front pocket, or you get the micro dick pic, and that's even, yes. So the micro, Zach sent Jim and myself a micro, and I gave Jim the micro, which is more carryable to me. This I've been carrying similarly to how I was mentioning a push dagger. So in the waistband with this kind of coming down. The thing is that this part is sharp as all hell. So you got to be careful. But yeah, a great persuader. Doug Bull says, Bob, does the pick fall into the classification of martial arts weapon? I mean, yeah, but so does a hammer. As far as how do you think? What do you think, Chaz? Does something like this, which is a kind of a tool pick implement, which has obvious, tactical uses or whatever, does this fall into martial arts weapon?
I think it depends on whether or not you're asking a DA or you're asking a martial arts person, right? Anything, you're right. Anything can be a martial arts weapon. My phone could be used as a weapon.
Yeah.
But so yeah, for sure, I would think that could then be classified as a weapon.
Yeah,
and for sure, a DA would view it as a martial arts weapon if it facilitated them charging you with something.
Yeah. Oh, I use it as a scribe for work. Yeah, sure you do. Robert Von Dar says, the term fencing is a blend of offense, defense, yes, kind of fencing, sword fencing techniques, specifically naval cutlass drills. See Angelo. Ooh. Naval cutlass drills. In Seattle, you can't wear a fixed blade, but you can steal one with no repercussions. Yeah, that's funny. Yeah. A lot of our cities are like that now. Where we live here, it's kind of like that. Though I haven't witnessed it. Knock on wood. But I know like the rules here kind of have changed in the favor of shoplifters, which that just blows my mind. I don't get that. I do. But I'm just pretending I don't, but I do. Edgy American says the corner of a smartphone to the temple makes for a horrible day. Yeah, no kidding. That's going to break your screen. You're going to have to go get it fit. Oh, you mean for the other guy? Yeah, no kidding. Actually, that corner and the temple thing is that whole concept I was talking about with hitting with these two knuckles without really winding up or anything. You can just kind of from the waist, wham. Into the ribs. Cargo pants, says Craig Vincent, are personal self-defense modern day 12-ton trucks. Yeah. So Craig Vincent is a daily carrier of 10 or so large fixed and folding tactical knives. And I asked him once where he carries them, and in his pockets.
In his cargo pants.
Yeah, man.
All right. I think I better upgrade my pants.
All right, I want to show off a couple of things here. Some interesting things that Dave of OG Blades sent. He sent a box of 6 knives for giveaways, and this one here, I'm going to show you the one that's the most unique first. This is a Civivi. It's called the Civivi Typhoeus. It comes in a not so sure it's leather case. But check this out. All right, so here we have it in push dagger mode, or push knife mode, and then let's see, you just whip it that way, and now it's a regular.
That's cool.
Yeah. The one thing is it doesn't lock in either position, so the lock is really your hand. I'm not sure how well, I am sure how I feel about that. I don't particularly like that, though switching back and forth with a lock might be a problem, but a really cool knife, I gotta say, and set up for this sheath like that. So pretty interesting. So that's one of the knives he sent, the Civivi Typhoeus. This next one by CRKT and Brian Ty. You know Brian Ty, custom knife maker from Canada. Everything that he does has Thai in the name. Thai Fighter, Thai Stick. That was a funny one. Thai Breaker. Everything Thai. TIGH. This is kind of a very emblematic design for him. Very typical handle. And they were making this before the big button lock flipper phase, and they were doing a beautiful job of it. And suddenly, I don't know who started making them, and then, oh wow, look at this! But CRKT was doing it for a long time and doing it pretty well. They little too late for them, but yeah, I think that if they, well, I don't know, they're charging $700 for blades, and to me that's nuts. So yeah, this to me is an interesting one. I want to thank you, Dave, for sending these. We're going to be giving some of these away. He also sent that mini Paragon and a Rosecraft. This is interesting. Rosecraft blade. I don't know. What do you think of folders? I know that I know, Chaz, that you are fixed blade primarily, obviously with this first effort. And then I know you've also mentioned that you are going a little bit larger, which I'd like to hear about. But how do you feel about folders for Fisher?
Oh yeah, I'm all for it. In fact, we're developing one. Right now it's on a long timeline, right? It takes there's a lot more work that goes into it. So it'll be sometime next year that we'll do a folder.
So not to ask you to divulge too much, but have you what kind of locking mechanisms are kind of tickling your fancy?
Well, I like variants of the crossbar. We at SOG we had our own version of that, and I became pretty fond of it, and so I've been looking at that as as a potential mechanism for us.
Yeah, yeah, it seems very strong, and especially if you get the Omega spring thing right. I know a lot of people have complained. I have never ever had a problem with Omega springs on any knife with an axis lock, though admittedly I don't use them every single day, so I could see how maybe with but I think I think that is one of the most intuitive choices. I think button locks are huge and people like them. But hey, as Edgy American says, I am not stabbing with a button lock. Yeah, they just don't seem to be as robust. But so you mentioned to me in our interview conversation that you wanted to make a larger version of the Beckwith Covert. Covert, obviously, referring to the fact that it's small and easily carried. Well, what are your plans for future models?
Yeah, so we have a few models in mind for the Beckwith family, and the Covert was the inaugural one. A folder will be a part of the Beckwith family, and a larger sibling to the Covert. So something probably with a 4 to 4.5 inch blade. Won't be front pocket carry. It'll be belt carry or molly carry or chest rig carry, something like that. So that will be coming out in the fall. That's called the Beckwith Mission.
Okay. And are you staying, does the Beckwith line necessarily mean Tanto?
It doesn't necessarily mean Tanto, but I like you, as you know, I like the Tanto, and so probably every Beckwith knife will have will launch in a Tanto version. I'm not opposed to variants that would have different blade shapes in the future.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I wasn't sure if it was like, oh yeah, the Beckwith is the Tanto line, and then something else in mind for your spear points or something.
It needs to be the right blade shape for the purpose of the blade. And you and I talked a lot about this. I think that we're sticking very closely to our purpose first design philosophy on our knives, and we always start with that. And whatever design decisions we make or material decisions we make, it has to support that purpose. And so I won't do something on a blade just because I like how it looks. It has to perform to the function, the defined function and purpose of that blade.
So this first batch, and you're doing these all in batches, has been on sale or up. The drop happened a little while ago. What are you hearing? How are people receiving it? Are you hearing any feedback yet? And what are you hearing?
Well, we've had largely very positive feedback, and we have had requests for larger blades, especially from dudes with bigger hands. And I understand that. We've had some pushback on the price, but I think that we're competitive for the class of knives and the company that we're keeping, in terms of our other knife brands that are making similar stuff in the United States out of similar materials. So yeah, requests for bigger blades is a bigger blade has been a pretty typical thing. Yeah. It's been very positive. We're out. We sold out, as you might know.
Yeah. That's awesome. So when can people not to rush you, but like what's your schedule for kind of coming out with more?
Well, we have 2 different kinds of batches. We've got three really. We've got prime runs, 3 different types of runs. Prime runs, which are inaugural, the first of a knife, like we just did the prime run of the Covert. We will do rerun versions of that, which is the same knife, same color, same steel, same scales. That would be a rerun. And then we also do unicorn runs or unicorn editions, and those are unique and magical and will never be done again. And it could be a steel choice, it could be a Cerakote color, it could be a scale material change, it could be a color change. And we do have a unicorn edition of the Covert that will launch in about a week and a half, right before Blade Show. And then we've got a rerun of it coming out in August. So we've got 2 pretty big runs coming of the Covert in the next couple of months.
All right. So I'm assuming you're not going to tell us what the unicorn setup will be that you come to Blade Show with. All right. No. You got to go to Blade Show to find out. All right. As we wrap here, let me tell us all the details. You're going to be at Blade Show, right?
We'll be at Blade Show. We'll be out in the ballroom, 2205. Okay.
So the ballroom is yes. The ballroom is the secondary room, right?
It's the Wild West of a Blade Show. It's where anything goes.
I love it. The first year I went, I didn't even realize that was there. And I like kind of stumbled out for water or something. And I was like, and several of my favorite makers were in there. And I was like, oh my God, I just thought they didn't come. And here they are. So that is a great room to be in. And you're right. That is kind of the Wild West. That's kind of where the up and comers are. And that's where, there's a crackling energy in there because it's all compressed.
Yeah.
That's cool. Doug
For
Bowl
sure.
says perhaps something to consider is including a pommel, allowing the knife to be used as a striking implement when the blade is not warranted. And an interesting thought. The one thing that would do, Doug, I mean, well, I'm not going to speak for you, Chaz, but in my opinion, the one thing that would do that might be disadvantageous is make the handle longer and make it less pocket friendly, because it might start stabbing into your hip, but also make it easier to disarm if you have a longer handle.
Yeah.
But that's just my 2 cents.
Yeah.
The ballroom is where the cool kids hang out. Yeah. So anything you want to leave us with, Chaz?
No, just thank you very much for opening this up to me and letting me virtually meet some of your supporters. It's very cool. I appreciate it. You guys all know a lot about knives. It's very impressive and humbling. So thanks for having me on the show.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for your time, but also for your generous donation / giveaway. I can't wait to send this out to. Gee, who was it who won? I can't remember. So I guess it's got to sit. No, Martin Gamboa. Can't wait to send that to him, and we really appreciate it. Can't wait to see what's next from Fisher Blades, and I look forward to seeing you again in Atlanta in a few weeks.
That sounds great.
All right.
Thanks,
Thank
Bob.
you, Charles. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, guys.
Sir.
Bye.
Take care. So, power play for real. The Covert is a serious knife. Would you say it's a pocket knife? Well, yeah, it is a pocket knife. But so is this a pocket knife, and so is this a pocket knife. So yeah, I get what you're getting at. And there was a very interesting point that someone put up. I'm sorry, Jim. Right as we were saying goodbye to Chaz, which was the law doesn't care if you use your pommel or your blade. Excuse me, if you have to deploy it. And that's an interesting comment. And it's also one of those comments that could be crippling in the moment. It's like I always pray that if I ever need to use violence, I'm going in like, this is the fight I should be fighting, and therefore I'm not thinking about how the law will perceive it. Jacob Green. Hey, Jacob, thank you for the comment. The law doesn't distinguish between pommel and blade when brandishing. Yeah, but I guess what I'm getting at is in that moment of truth where you're actually considering, the use of deadly force or the use of violence, that there's no doubt in your mind and that you're not thinking about it. Well, yeah, I don't know. It's a tough topic for me to discuss because I haven't been in that situation. And so I'll keep it there. I should clarify that I live in California, says Jacob Green. Well, that is a good point. But I think most places, I think you're right. I think most places, something like this is illegal. And that's crazy. You can own a shotgun, but you can't have brass knuckles. And I think you should have both, just to be clear. You should have the right to have any weapon you want. I guess minus certain weapons of war, like an RPG or an Abrams tank. But, that's pretty much how I feel about it. All right, we're going to get out of here in a few minutes. But before we do, I just wanted to show off two things that Savivi Sencut sent me. The first thing is the Sencut Borzam. Yes, that's right, the Borzam. This has not quite dropped yet, but very nice blade shape. I love the shape of this blade. I also love the way it feels in hand. I'm not crazy about how the handle looks, but you know me, I'm a shallow guy and looks matter. Though it feels good, my hands love the way it looks. It's like that line from Pulp Fiction, and I'm not even going to try and remember what it is, but it's between Butch and his girl, and they're lying in bed, and she says something like, well, I'm not even going to repeat. I can't even say, but it feels better than it looks. And that's what this is. But I look at this blade. It's 3.8 inches long. It is really nice. 9 CR and a center line point, drop point, kind of an exotic look to it. not exotic, but sort of an Insingo type look to it. But better on a thrust because of that center line point. Where's the second one? Second one is the Civivi Primatrox. Primatrox, love that name. To me, it looks like the what is it called? The Praxis. It looks like a slimmed down Praxis. Love the swedge on this drop point blade. Full choil, just like the Borzam. Slightly shorter blade. This one has the wood. I gotta say, the wood leaves me a little cold on this one. I frequently choose the wood, but in this case, not so rich. It looks like it's been left out in the sun and bleached a little bit. But maybe I'll hit it with a little oil and see what that does. This is 14C28N. This is 9CR. Both very nice. Of course, excellent action and all the rest. Flipper only here. Flipper thumbstud over here. I'll be doing full reviews of these and or close-up videos, and then we'll probably give them away. We have a lot of giveaway knives building up here. The ones that Dave sent, a couple others here. This is a cool one. The Adamanti. I'm not sure. Adamanti Samson. This is designed by Brutalica, a Russian knife dealer that I've been following on Instagram for years. He's come up with a couple of really cool knives. This one you can wave open with the quillions up here, which is pretty cool. Or you can just use it as a flipper. Not legal in California says, yeah, black powder cannons, especially since not considered a firearm. Exactly. Just set that up on your front porch and take care of the pirates. I love the bayonet ground blade here. I love that big swedge. Centerline point, again, sort of a spear point or dagger point, but with a bayonet grind. Very handsome knife. I like this one a lot. Feels like it's a steel frame. I don't know. Maybe these bolsters are aluminum. Can't tell. I'll do a little research. So interesting there. Let's see what else. He sent this right here. This little thing. Swords are sacred, Robert. I agree with you. Swords are sacred. You know, people in Great Britain, I know some of you probably follow Scalora Gladiatoria, brilliant European weapons scholar and fighter and all that. And they're going through some major issues over in Great Britain about weapons. Even fencers can't have their weapons now. It's absurd. Or won't be able to. I'm not sure if it's already passed. I just want to show this one real quick. This is a cute, and I don't say cute often. Cute little EDC here, called what the hell is this called? This is called something I don't remember. It'll come to me in a second, but very cool little EDC. Oh, Ketuo. And it has a button actuated liner lock. So when you push the button, look at the liner lock, it just moves over. So it's like super smooth liner lock that acts like a button lock. So interesting little EDC here. This one has injection molded handles. This would be a really cool knife to dress up, to have like a nicer version of, actually. Have some exotic carbon fiber handle or micarta handles or something. This is a cool little knife. I'm digging it. All right, I think I've talked enough. My God, will you stop talking about knives already? They all say. Well, yes, I will. I will do that right now. But before I do, be sure that you join us on Sunday. Who do we have coming up Sunday, Jim? Matt. Yeah, Matt is Faction. Awesome dude. Great interview. And we talk about his Phoenix by Kaiser. And then we talk about he has a couple of really great designs in the offing. His second one looks so cool. But that his first one, the Phoenix, man, that is a cool one, especially with that upswept clip point. Doug Bowl, great show, Bob and Jim. Thank you, Doug. And thank you for becoming a Gentleman Junkie. Power play for real. Thanks for your time, Bob and Jim. Thank you for your time, sir. Have a great night. Oh, pardon me. Robert Von Darth. Yeah, I follow Matt Easton. The proposed ban is affecting my fencing club over there. That sucks, man. That is so ridiculous. God. And it's like Great Britain, then Canada, then us. So we cannot let any of this stuff happen here. We got enough bullshit happening here. We cannot have some sort of stupid ass sword ban, for God's sake. Not legal in California says we need to just ban Great Britain. Yeah, exactly. Completely, I guess. Except there's some great people, but yeah. Craig Vincent says, thanks, Bob and Jim, for another great TNK. Well, thank you, Craig Vincent. And thanks for being a gentleman junkie. Frankie Frank, great to have you here, Frankie Frank. Thank you, Bob, Jim, and gentlemen. Have a fantastic night, all. You too, and have a great weekend, sir. Have a good night, everyone. Says not legal in California. You too, sir. All right. For Jim working his magic behind the switcher, I'm Bob DeMarco saying until next time, don't take dull for an answer.